Quotations from myself, segment 34, quotation number 389. For the duration of the Cold War, which was officially declared dead recently, America and Americans were, to a large extent, defined as the opposite to the Soviet Union and communism. This created, in a strange twist of irony, the situation when the Cold War became one of the major causes for moral degradation of American society in the post-Second World War period. The reason given to the American people for the Cold War was a defense of freedom. The Soviet communism was presented as a system ruled by the ruthless totalitarian regime, denying its people the basic liberties. And so, if the Soviet citizens have their freedom severely curtailed by the communist state, the United States of America, the beacon of freedom in the world, had to allow its citizens to have as much freedom as humanly possible. Political freedom in the full sense of the word was of course excluded. McCarthyism took care of that. This carte blanche license to personal freedom had opened the floodgates and led to the greatest moral abuses in history since Sodom and Gomorrah. It has manifested itself as the unlimited sexual freedom, freedom of practically unrestricted pornography, drugs freedom, crimes freedom, etc. And anytime anybody tried to do something about it, he would be immediately accused of acting like a communist and of turning America into the Soviet Union. But now, as it has to be expected, though some may find it ironic, when the Soviet Union has collapsed, the American government, not being afraid evidently anymore of being accused of acting like communists, has begun tightening the limits of permissible as far as public morality is concerned. This new trend has already found its expression, for example, in a stricter supervision of grants by the National Endowment for Humanities, especially concerning the type of art which is considered by the general public to be immoral or pornographic. More, of course, is to come. Thus, in a certain sense, the demise of the Soviet communism may, in the long run, be very beneficial to the state of the American morals. Number 390. The internal stability of every political system is based on contradiction between what it does and what it preaches. Profoundly materialistic society of the capitalist West, which are catering to any wish and whimsy of the so-called human nature, are ostensibly professing the idealistic belief in spirituality and God. At the same time, just as thorough idealistic society of a communist East, whose whole way of life was an attempt to give a body to purely intellectual ideology, proclaimed itself to be materialistic. And so, on the one hand, we saw in the West the materialistic life in the idealistic drag, while on the other hand in the East, the idealistic life was covered by a materialistic makeup. Of course, both systems could be accused with some justification of hypocrisy. But it is this half-acknowledged and tacitly accepted by the majority hypocrisy that keeps society together. And it is a rejection by the same majority of this hypocrisy that eventually has destroyed the communist East. The mixture of outright lies and ambiguous half-truths is a mortar that keeps building society together. But the absolute truth is a dynamite that would blow it up to pieces. Thus, it is not the truth, but as paradoxical as it may sound, the inconsistency and contradictions that produces a state of equilibrium, albeit of various degree of stability. On the other hand, contrary to the popular expectation, and society that tries to harmonize what it does with what it preaches embarks unknowingly on a path of self-destruction. For the forces unleashed by such a desire create a phenomenon somewhat similar to the resonance effect in a mechanical structure, when the rapidly accelerating excitation of a system by a continuing application of forces at its natural frequency causes an exponential increase in amplitude of oscillation, which quickly leads to the disintegration of the system. 391. The American mass media, that is films, television, magazines, visual arts, popular music, and especially omnipresent advertising, are so thoroughly permeated by sexual imagery that it seems they all conspire to keep American public in a state of, to use a modern sexological term, perpetual foreplay. 392. In the beginning there was sin, and sin was fun for quite a while. But then sin turned into routine, and boredom has arrived. 393. Here is the law of no return, otherwise known as irreversibility. Water spilled on the ground cannot be gathered back into a glass. A burnt tree cannot be restored out of its ashes. 394. When we are young and small and weak, it's truth and justice that we seek. But when we grown big and strong, we act as if there is no right or wrong. The weak need justice to protect them from the strong. A child is weak, therefore he depends on justice. When he grows up and becomes a strong adult, he relies primarily on his strength to get what he wants. But he cannot erase completely from his psyche the belief in absolute necessity of justice, which was so crucial to his survival as a child. So, though he achieved now his goal by means of powers, nevertheless he always tried to find justification for his action to satisfy the deeply ingrained in him notion of justice. It also explains why the perception of injustice is one of the main motivations for human action. 395. Justice, in its simplest form, is based on the assumption of equality of all, despite the obvious differences. be they in strength, wealth, beauty, wisdom, skills, etc. It is usually viewed as a mode of social interaction, but it originates in the biological necessity for humans to survive as a species. The survival of the human species, like that of any other living organism, depends on the survival of its young. The human child, in order to survive the long period of childhood, the actual number of years depend on the complexity of civilization, during which he or she is too weak, both physically and socially, to fend for himself, has nothing to rely upon but on the just treatment by the members of his family and by strangers. Thus we can say that as far as humans are concerned, the justice is the basis of life. That is, if not for justice, there would not be human life at all. (396) Once I was a wise child, today I am an old man, and in between transpired life of the gone wrong plans, of hopes that came to nothing, of dreams never fulfilled. And what about the child? His spirit and mind were killed. (397) Do not look for apples in the cherry orchard. (398) A man can get used to all kinds of hardship and learn how to bear them stoically. But the unsatisfied vanity could never be fully extinguished. It will continue for as long as one lives to cause pain, which as year passes by can only grow stronger and stronger. (399) There are the positive and negative aspects to living a long life. On the positive side, the availability of the extra time, not necessarily used productively, to change, if possible, what needs to be changed and rectified, if desirable, what can be rectified. On the negative side, having to spend much more time than one would wish to otherwise, to grieve and to regret. 400. Sooner or later, almost any disciple wants to become a teacher himself. For the more one learns, the more one wishes to impart this newly acquired knowledge to others. Of course, the upward mobility drive is also partly responsible for such a desire. But in order to assume the position of a teacher, the disciple has to leave his teacher and to find his own disciples, namely the less knowledgeable than he is. One of the main attractions of becoming a missionary, besides the obvious religious motivation, had always been precisely such an opportunity. For the position of a missionary almost automatically provides one which is in transition from being disciple to become a teacher with it.